Now, let's join ace broadcaster Mamode Akugha as he takes us inside the Niger Delta.
Hello out there and welcome. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. I am Mamode Akugha. Governorship and State House of Assembly elections took place all over the country last Saturday, and of course, the Niger Delta states were not left out. Though for some of the states, it was only state assembly elections that were conducted, as the governorship positions had become staggered following judiciary-ordered dates for such rerun elections in those states. We'll bring you a report that takes a look at the results of last Saturday's elections in the Niger Delta and reactions of some Port Harcourt residents to the suspension of the electoral process in Rivers State. We'll wrap up today's edition of the program with a special report on identifying a new voice to lead the charge for a better Niger Delta from the Buhari's administration in the next 4 years. Inside the Niger Delta, we'll be back in just a moment. Don't go away.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Welcome back. Governorship and state assembly elections were conducted across the country last Saturday, including the Niger Delta states, where some had only state assembly elections as a result of staggered gubernatorial elections in Edo, Bayelsa, and Ondo states. Before Saturday elections, a lot of drama, tension, legal battles, violence, and apprehension enveloped the region. However, results from last Saturday's governorship and state assembly elections indicate a strong dominance of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the region. In Delta State, Governor Akugha of the PDP was re-elected for another 4-year term with a total of 925,274 votes to beat his closest rival, Great Ogbaru of the APC, who polled 215,938 votes. In Akwa Ibom State, Governor Udom Emmanuel of the PDP also retained his seat for a second term by beating the APC candidate, Nsima Ekere. Udom polled a total of 519,712 votes and won in 30 local government areas, as against Mr. Ekere, who polled 171,978 votes and won only in one local government area, Esianudim local government area, which is the local government area of the former Senate Minority Leader Godswill Akpabio. In Imo States, where results were still being collated as at Monday, governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party and former Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Emeka Ihedioha, was said to be coasting to victory with 128,722 votes, far ahead of his closest rival, Uche Nwosu of the Action Alliance. The results, as announced by the state returning officer, Professor Francis Otunka, were from 11 out of the 27 local government areas of the state. In Cross River State, incumbent Governor Ben Ayade was declared winner of the March 9 governorship election after winning in all 18 local government areas of the state. Re-elected Governor Ayade polled 381,484 votes to defeat Senator John Eno of the APC, who got 131,161 votes. Okezie Ikpeazu of the PDP in Abia State has been declared the winner of the governorship election in the state. According to INEC's returning officer in the state, Professor Benjamin Ozumba, Ikpeazu polled 261,127 votes to defeat the candidate of the APC, Uche Oga, who secured a total of 99,574 votes. Also, Alex Oti of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, polled 64,366 votes to come third in the election. Meanwhile, in Rivers State, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has suspended the electoral process following what it described as widespread disruption of elections and violence. INEC has further established a fact-finding committee to assess the situation and report back to it within 48 hours. Here now are some reactions from some Port Harcourt residents on the governorship and House of Assembly polls in Rivers State.
My reaction is that it was needful in view of the crisis that characterized the election. The killings, the maimings, and all that. So the suppression is very, very necessary. Maybe to get the gladiators to rethink. I expect that the committee should be fair. I expect that they should be fair, and they should do their work without fear or favor, and they should have the interest of the society and the Rivers people at heart.
For us, it's a surprise to us that up till now the results in Rivers State have not been announced. Rivers indigenes are worried. They don't understand what is actually going on. And so we are appealing to the federal government. Politics is not a do or die affairs. Allow the peace of the state. Let us ensure that the wish of the people counts. As it stands now, nobody knows what to say. Nobody is assured of democracy, and everybody is worried about the situation, particularly in Rivers State.
What the law seems to say is that while we're voting, there is violence. You can suspend it and do it the next day. Now, in most of these cases, what we hear is that the voting has already occurred. What remains is the collation. And like the Supreme Court said several years ago, that is just an arithmetical process, which means that if we can sift out the results that came from the units, you can even go to Japan and do that arithmetic. You do not need a collation center to do it. So my view is that my expectation for what that committee is supposed to do is to look at there areas where you have genuine results that came out from the units. And if you can pick those ones, please collect with that. But the whole, you can forgo the whole question of collation center, because it has become centers of tension, centers of fraud, and all sort of things. So if I have the unit results, and the parties themselves should tender their unit copies so that they can cross-check whether that is legitimately what came out from the units. Even in Abuja, you can stay there and do the arithmetic. In Japan, you can stay and do the arithmetic. You don't need to do it in Aba Road under the siege of the military.
Inside the Niger Delta.
With 35 persons allegedly killed in Abonnema, headquarters of Akugha local government area of Rivers State during the February 23rd presidential and National Assembly elections, the once peaceful community is perhaps the worst casualty of electoral violence in the Niger Delta in the 2019 general elections. Prior to the governorship and state assembly elections in Rivers State, no fewer than 2 groups of women took to the streets to protest the killings in their community.
On Saturday, February 23, 2019, during the presidential and National Assembly elections, tragedy struck in Abonnema when unknown gunmen engaged military troops deployed to secure the community, leading to the death of an army lieutenant and 6 others. The killing spree had continued after the election day tragedy, prompting thousands to flee their hometown. Days before the March 9 governorship and state assembly elections, Abonnema women rose in defense of their community, which they said had come under the siege of merchants of election violence in the area.
We had an award of being the most peaceful community in the entire Rivers State. And I don't know what it has turned to, but we believe the women always start good things in life. We're asking that peace should reign in Rivers, in Abonnema. That's why we're here.
The campaign for peace in Abonnema, however, took a dramatic twist when 2 groups of protesting women took their grievances to the Abonnema monarch, King Disrael Bobo Bob Manuel.
We're indeed pained because what the military came here to do has never happened in this community. Our sons died. Over 35 children died in this community. And today we're out to beg our chiefs, let them tell us what is the way forward, because this community is not known to be violent. And we're saying that the army should not be here again come the next election.
We want army to stay Because the same people agitating that the army should go are the same people that brought in the thugs to kill the people of Akugha. And we, the Akugha women, we need peace. We need the army to stay to protect our lives and property. We need the army. The army has been with us for a long time. So we don't want them to go. We want them to stay and work in synergy with the police to protect us. That is the aim of our protest.
Obviously worried at the ugly turn of events in the once peaceful community, the Abonnema monarch had urged his subjects to continue to embrace peace, especially during the next round of elections.
I want to ask you and all indigents of Abonnema and Calabar to be strong, because what we are facing is not an ordinary thing. Even during the Civil War, we were in Abonnema here. We did not see this during the Biafran Civil War. So be strong. And by the grace of God, we will overcome.
Inside the Niger Delta.
After almost 6 decades of its existence as part of Nigeria, the Niger Delta is yet to get the attention it deserves as our nation's treasure base, a situation that is blamed on an existing leadership vacuum in the region. Who will succeed the receding generation of leaders who once championed the cause of the Niger Delta and offer the region a strong voice in an increasingly complex political terrain? That is the focus of this special report. Many years before Nigeria's liberation from colonial rule in 1960, the Niger Delta had been identified as a politically and economically threatened region in an emerging nation state. At the vanguard of the struggle for self-rule were some Niger Deltans, notably Ernest Ikoli, Anthony Enahoro, Okoya Rikpo, among several others who, in concert with their counterparts from other regions, fought assiduously to dislodge the Union Jack from the soil of what eventually became Nigeria. Sensing that the politics of the day was being compromised by an unhealthy rivalry among the large ethnic groups scrambling for an equitable share of national resources in pre-independence Nigeria, leaders of the less populated Niger Delta region had raised fears about their welfare and survival in post-independence Nigeria. Such fears were confirmed by the Willings Commission report of 1948 that designated the Niger Delta an area of special attention for rapid development. At independence, a gold mine was struck in the Niger Delta with the discovery of crude oil in Oloibri in 1956. Shortly after the Civil War ended in 1970, crude oil became Nigeria's economic mainstay and produced vast economic resources that successive governments used to develop other regions, leaving out the Niger Delta as the Cinderella of national budgetary allocations. Following crude oil exploration in the Niger Delta was a massive pollution of the environment that saw the communities dislocated from their means of livelihood. The consequences of administrative neglect in Nigeria's oil-rich but largely backward region has been an untold ecological devastation, poverty and insecurity. It is otherwise known as the Niger Delta question. The parlous state of affairs in the Niger Delta in the intervening years resulted in a non-violent struggle for an existence in the region, championed by the likes of Ken Saro-Wiwa and Chiefs Harold Dapabirie and Edwin Clark. As it stands now, Chief Edwin Clark appears to be the lone and retiring voice which the region badly needs to be accorded its pride of place in national affairs.
We all belong to this country. This country does not belong to one group of people. Some people are free men or leaders or masters, others are slaves or second-class citizens. We should learn from the lesson of Sudan and other countries. I'm not going to live in Nigeria for my children who will be slaves. Enough is enough.
In more recent times, the emergence of armed struggle following the Kayama Declaration of 1998 had prompted the federal government to make concessions for the region in its demand for social justice. In 1999, a policy was implemented to reserve 13% of oil revenues for the rapid development of the Niger Delta. This was followed by the establishment of the Niger Delta Development Commission (NDDC) in the year 2000 and subsequently the Ministry of Niger Delta. In spite of the federal government's gesture, there is a general perception that its interventionist policies in the Niger Delta were ab initio designed to fail.
The 13% derivation has not translated in the lives of the community, oil-bearing community. The 13% derivation is just extra money for governors to squander for their personal aggrandizement.
In over 3 decades, calls for the operation of fiscal federalism have resonated the most in the Niger Delta, whose people are consistent in their demand for a restructured federation to enable them control oil revenues generated in their domain and pay royalties to the federal government. Bayelsa State Governor Henry Dickson is currently spearheading the campaign for a restructured federation, which he says will reposition the country on the path of justice, fairness, and national cohesion.
The call for restructuring is a call for a return to the original founding principles of our great nation. And no blackmail, no intimidation should sway us to abandon this noble cause. Our nation is crying for justice. Our nation is crying for freedom. Our nation is crying for prosperity. Our nation is crying for unity. Unity that is sustainable. Unity that is founded on justice. People who are far away may just talk of restructuring as a slogan or as an ideal. Here in this state, here in this region, we feel the pains of it. We live with it, we have lived with it for decades and decades. And so when there is a call to reorganize our country and make it more stable, make it more equitable, make it more just, and therefore make it more prosperous, we in Bayelsa State, we in the John Nation are totally in support of that.
In July 2017, the hopes for most Niger Deltans for a restructured federation were dashed when a bill seeking to amend the 1999 constitution to allow for devolution of more powers from the center to the federating units was rejected on the floor of the Senate. It was a sad experience for Niger Deltans, who have since concluded that with lawmakers from outside the region in the majority in the National Assembly, addressing the Niger Delta question will continue to be an uphill task for their political representatives.
The fear of those who are opposed to the increment is that they will not have anything to fall back on. We need to lobby other states to support us. The Sunset Clause is a proposal whereby the oil resources, which right now is 13%, is given an incremental progression from 15%, from 13%, say to 20%, depends on our lobbying power in the first 5 years. After that, another increment of the 5% to 25% in another 10 years. To now 30% in another 20 years. Like that, you increase. You won't get everything at once.
Beyond the inequitable distribution of Nigeria's oil wealth to the detriment of the Niger Delta, there is a general perception of an orchestrated plan to continue to undermine the region and its people, as it was feared in the years preceding the release of the Willings Commission report. Governor Dickson, who doubles as chairman of the South-South Governors Forum, recently gave vent to the region's perceived feeling of political relegation in responding to the travails of the suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onoge.
We consider this step, which is directly aimed at humiliating the nation's highest judicial officer, who, incidentally, is a prominent son of this nation from the South-South zone. We view this as totally unacceptable, as it is reflective of what we have come to know as a South-South story of endless marginalization and intimidation.
With the implementation report on oil pollution in Ogoniland and the ongoing construction of the Bonny Border Road, President Muhammadu Buhari has made conscious efforts to provide new vistas of hope for the Niger Delta. Mr. President is, however, enjoined to go the extra mile to make the oil-producing communities real partakers in the distribution of the country's oil wealth in the next 4 years.
Good enough that the oil leases are expiring. Some persons have benefited. It has also impacted and translated in their lives and that of their children. It should go round. This oil block should be given to communities so that it will also improve their entrepreneurship prowess, and they will now see themselves as equal stakeholder in these economic activities, and they will ensure that there is peace in the region.
Infrastructure-wise, we should plead with the president to complete the East-West Road. That is an important infrastructural project for us. If our goods cannot go out of Niger Delta, another goods come in, businesses will suffer, and businesses are suffering. Port Harcourt city is starving. Lagos is booming. So if you hope to compete with Lagos, you must get the East-West Road done.
The problems and challenges of the Niger Delta are indeed legion. Confronting these challenges successfully will require a leadership that is focused, dedicated, and result-oriented. Also, it is imperative that the region begins to look beyond the 92-year-old Chief E.K. Clark and into the future. It must do so with a crop of new regional leaders that will speak for the entire region. One man whose thoughts and actions and experience as governor in the last 7 years clearly puts him at a vantage position for regional leadership is Bayelsa State Governor and champion of restructuring, Honorable Henry Seriake Dickson. While Governor Seriake Dickson prepares to take over the baton of leadership from Chief E.K. Clark, the last man standing in the old guard of regional emancipators, it is clear that a lone voice cannot adequately convey to the rest of the country and indeed the international community the true aspirations of the Niger Deltans.
Leaders of the Niger Delta, both those who are the elderly ones in quote and the younger generation, must come together and put aside political consideration and come to the point where we understand that the need of the Niger Delta is greater than our personal or political need. And I think that must be done very quickly.
Regardless of the fact that the Niger Delta question has given rise to a struggle in need of more volunteers, most of the region's leaders who have the obligation to champion the cause of their people have become divided on party lines. Their pursuit of personal aspirations has created a leadership vacuum in the region, which makes it appear like a rudderless ship in search of any port in a storm. It is expected that in the next 4 years of the Buhari presidency, Niger Deltans, irrespective of their social status and political affiliations, sink their differences and pursue the collective aspiration of a region long abandoned by the Nigerian state.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Well, that's the size of our package in this edition of the program. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. We'll be back same time next week on this station. In the meantime, you can follow us on our social media handles showing on your screen right now. Until then, I am Mamode Akugha, thanking you for staying tuned, and bye for now.